There is a path in life that few people notice because it does not announce itself with noise. It does not shine with gold, nor does it call out with promises of quick rewards. It is quiet, almost invisible, like a narrow trail hidden beneath falling leaves in an ancient forest. Many walk past it because their eyes are fixed on brighter roads, louder roads, roads crowded with restless footsteps. Yet those who discover this silent path often find something the world spends a lifetime chasing. They find that luck in its deepest form has always been drawn to the still mind. Most people believe luck is something that happens by accident. They think it belongs only to the fortunate few, scattered randomly like rain falling on certain houses while leaving others dry. They spend years trying to force life to bend toward their desires. They rush from one place to another, chasing signs, chasing people, chasing moments they believe will change everything. But in their constant movement, they disturb the waters of their own spirit. And when the water is disturbed, it cannot reflect the moon. The mind is very much like a pool of water. When it is shaken by fear, desire, and endless thought, it becomes cloudy. In that cloudiness, even the clearest opportunities appear distorted. A person may stand before an open door and never see it because their thoughts are too loud. They may hear wisdom spoken gently, yet miss it because their inner noise drowns it out. This is why some people seem to miss blessings that are right in front of them. It is not because life has denied them. It is because they cannot see what life is offering. A still mind does not mean an empty life. It means a life that is not ruled by chaos. It means learning to sit with yourself without needing to escape into distraction. It means becoming so inwardly calm that you can hear the subtle movements of life around you. When the mind becomes still, intuition begins to speak, and intuition often knows what logic cannot explain. It can sense the right moment to act, the right person to trust, the right path to follow. What many call luck is sometimes nothing more than the fruit of inner clarity. Have you ever noticed that when you stop desperately searching for something, it sometimes appears on its own? When you stop forcing an answer, clarity arrives quietly. When you release your grip, life often places in your hands what struggle could never hold. This is not coincidence. This is the mysterious way stillness works. The world responds differently to those who are no longer fighting it. There is a gentle power in calmness that cannot be seen, yet it changes everything. The restless mind is always reaching for tomorrow. It believes peace will come after the next success, after the next achievement, after the next approval. But because tomorrow never truly arrives, peace remains distant. Luck also remains distant because luck often enters through the present moment. It arrives unnoticed in ordinary conversations, small decisions, unexpected delays, and silent pauses. But only those who are fully present can recognize its footsteps. Stillness creates space, and in that space wisdom can enter. Imagine a house so filled with clutter that there is no room for light. This is how many minds live each day, crowded with worries, regrets, comparisons, and endless wanting. But when some of that clutter is released, something remarkable happens. Life begins to flow differently. The person has not changed the world around them. They have changed the world within them, and the outer world begins to respond. There are people who seem naturally fortunate, but often their greatest fortune is not wealth or status. It is their ability to remain centered while others are consumed by storms. When difficulty comes, they do not collapse. When opportunity appears, they do not hesitate. Their stillness allows them to move with life instead of against it. And because they move with life, life seems to move with them. This does not mean silence protects us from pain. Even the still mind will know loss. Even the calm heart will feel sorrow. But stillness changes the way suffering is carried. Instead of drowning in every wave, the still person learns to float. Instead of being broken by every season, they become like bamboo, bending without snapping. This quiet resilience itself attracts blessings because life often opens to those who do not resist it. Many people want luck without stillness. They want blessings without patience. I want answers without silence, but some treasures only reveal themselves in quiet places. Seeds do not grow in noise. Stars are not seen at noon. And the deeper gifts of life often arrive when the mind is calm enough to receive them. The silent path is not far away. It begins wherever you are. It begins in one conscious breath. It begins when you choose for a moment not to chase. It begins when you listen more than you speak. It begins when you trust that not every answer needs to be forced. In that stillness, something ancient awakens inside you. And slowly you begin to understand that luck was never just chance. It was always drawn to the peaceful soul that knew how to wait. Luck is attracted to inner stillness. True luck often comes to those who develop a calm and peaceful mind instead of constantly chasing outcomes. Luck is often imagined as something unpredictable, like a sudden wind that changes direction without warning. People search for it in places, in relationships, in opportunities, believing it is something outside themselves that must be caught before it disappears. Yet there is a deeper way to understand it. What many call luck is not always random. It often responds to the condition of the mind that experiences life. When the mind is calm and still, perception becomes clear and clarity itself becomes a kind of attraction for better outcomes. A still mind is not one that avoids life or hides from responsibility. It is a mind that is not constantly disturbed by unnecessary reaction. Most suffering comes not from events themselves, but from the inner commentary that follows them. The mind repeats analyses, fears, and projects endlessly into the future or past. In that continuous movement, awareness becomes scattered. A scattered mind struggles to notice subtle openings in life. It misses timing, misunderstands situations, and reacts instead of responding. This is how many chances are lost, not because life did not offer them, but because awareness was not present enough to recognize them. When stillness begins to grow, something important changes. Thoughts no longer dominate experience. They still appear, but they no longer control direction. In that space, perception sharpens. It becomes easier to see what is real and what is imagined. Many decisions in life are made under emotional pressure or mental confusion. But a calm mind can observe without being carried away. This allows action to become more aligned with reality instead of fear or desire. And when action aligns with reality, outcomes naturally improve. There is also a subtle transformation that occurs in how a person relates to time. A restless mind is always ahead or behind. It is either chasing something that has not arrived or holding on to something that has already passed. But a still mind rests in the present moment. In that presence, life feels more direct and alive. Decisions are not delayed by hesitation nor rushed by anxiety. They arise naturally when needed. This kind of timing often appears as luck from the outside, but inside it is simply awareness acting at the right moment without resistance. Stillness also affects the energy of interactions with others. People are naturally drawn to those who are calm because calmness creates safety. When someone is not constantly reacting, others feel understood and less judged. Communication becomes clearer, relationships become less tense, and cooperation becomes easier. Many opportunities in life come through people, and a calm presence often opens doors that force and struggle cannot. Even in moments of difficulty, a still mind does not collapse easily. Challenges are seen as situations to be understood rather than enemies to be feared. This shift in perception reduces unnecessary suffering. Instead of creating panic, the mind searches for solutions. And in that searching, insight appears more easily because fear is no longer blocking perception. What seemed like a dead end often reveals an alternative path when viewed without panic. In this way, what is often called luck is closely tied to inner condition. It is not that stillness guarantees specific outcomes, but it creates the right environment for better outcomes to be seen, chosen, and received. Life does not necessarily become easier, but the mind becomes clearer, and clarity is what allows life to be lived more skillfully. A restless mind misses opportunities. When the mind is filled with fear, worry, and noise, it cannot clearly recognize the blessings already present. When the mind becomes still, something subtle begins to unfold in the way life is experienced. It is not a dramatic change that announces itself loudly. Instead, it is quiet, like early morning light slowly filling a room. The world remains the same on the surface, yet the way it is seen begins to transform. What once felt confusing starts to feel more understandable. What once felt heavy begins to feel lighter, not because the weight has disappeared, but because the mind is no longer adding unnecessary resistance to it. A restless mind is constantly trying to control outcomes. It wants certainty in a world that is naturally uncertain. It demands answers before understanding the question. Because of this constant demand, it remains tense. This tension becomes a filter through which everything is seen. Even neutral situations start to appear threatening or complicated. In such a state, decision-making becomes clouded. A person may act quickly but not wisely, or hesitate too long even when the right moment has already passed. This is how life can feel like it is moving against them, even when opportunities are present. Stillness changes this inner relationship. When the mind is no longer rushing to fix or force everything, it begins to observe. Observation is very different from reaction. Reaction is immediate and emotional, while observation is patient and clear. In observation, there is space. In that space, understanding naturally arises. Instead of jumping to conclusions, the mind starts to see layers. It recognizes that not every situation needs interference. Some things resolve themselves when left undisturbed. Others reveal their meaning only when examined without pressure. This calm awareness also changes how challenges are experienced. Difficult situations still appear, but they are no longer magnified by fear. A problem is seen as a situation, not a disaster. This shift is powerful because fear often exaggerates reality. What might be a small obstacle can feel overwhelming when the mind is disturbed, but in stillness, the same situation is seen more proportionately. This allows for practical thinking rather than emotional overload. Solutions that were hidden under anxiety become visible again. There is also a natural improvement in timing when the mind is calm. Life operates in rhythms, and each moment has its own suitability for action. A disturbed mind often acts too early or too late. It interrupts the natural flow of events. But a still mind becomes sensitive to timing. It senses when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. This sensitivity is not learned through force but through awareness. And when actions align with the natural flow of circumstances, results often appear smoother and more favorable. Relationships also begin to shift in this state. When a person is less reactive, communication becomes more open. Others feel less judged and more understood. Misunderstandings decrease because words are not immediately shaped by emotional disturbance. Instead, responses become more thoughtful. This creates trust, and trust often leads to cooperation. Many opportunities in life arise through human connection, and a calm presence naturally strengthens those connections without effort. Stillness does not remove problems from life, but it changes the way problems are met. Instead of being overwhelmed, a person learns to stay grounded. Instead of being carried away by every thought, there is a center that remains steady. From that center, life can be navigated with greater clarity. And in that clarity, what people often call luck begins to appear not as random chance, but as the natural outcome of seeing clearly, acting wisely, and remaining present in each unfolding moment. Stillness creates clarity. A quiet mind allows intuition and wisdom to rise, helping a person make better choices in life. When stillness begins to settle within the mind, life does not suddenly become perfect or free from difficulty. Instead, what changes is the way life is met. The same world continues with its uncertainties, its shifts, and its unexpected turns, but the inner experience of it becomes less disturbed. This difference may seem small at first, but over time it transforms the entire quality of living. A person starts to realize that much of what was once considered misfortune was actually intensified by inner agitation, not by the events themselves. A restless mind tends to divide life into constant problems and constant solutions. It is always moving between desire and fear, trying to secure what it wants and avoid what it dislikes. In this continuous movement, there is very little space for understanding. Every situation is immediately labeled, judged, or resisted. Because of this, life feels heavier than it actually is. Even ordinary events can feel stressful when seen through a disturbed mind. The mind adds extra weight to reality and then struggles under that very weight. Stillness interrupts this cycle. It does not remove thoughts, but it changes the relationship with them. Thoughts begin to lose their authority. They are seen more as passing movements rather than absolute truths. When this happens, a quiet distance forms between awareness and mental noise. In that distance, clarity begins to grow naturally. A person no longer believes every fear that appears, nor clings to every desire that arises. Instead, there is a gentle observation of what is happening inside. With this clarity, decision-making becomes more aligned with reality. Many wrong turns in life happen not because people lack intelligence, but because their thinking is influenced by urgency. The mind, when under pressure, seeks quick relief rather than deep understanding. It chooses what feels immediately comforting instead of what is truly beneficial. But in a still state, urgency reduces. There is no need to rush into conclusions. The mind can wait, observe, and then respond. This patience often leads to decisions that feel more natural and sustainable in the long run. Stillness also changes the perception of success and failure. In a restless state, success feels like something to chase and failure feels like something to fear. This creates a constant emotional tension. Every step becomes weighted with pressure. But in stillness, success and failure are seen more as part of a larger process. One does not define identity. Instead, both are understood as temporary outcomes within a wider flow of experience. This reduces emotional extremes and creates inner balance. As this balance grows, the ability to notice subtle opportunities increases. Life rarely presents opportunities in loud or dramatic ways. More often they appear quietly in small moments, conversations, or unexpected changes in direction. A disturbed mind often overlooks these subtle openings because it is focused on larger anxieties or desires. But a calm mind is more attentive. It notices details that others miss. It hears what is not directly said. It senses timing that cannot easily be explained. From the outside, this can look like luck, but internally it is simply refined awareness. Relationships also begin to reflect this inner change. When the mind is reactive, interactions become tense and easily misunderstood. Small issues grow larger because they are filtered through emotional disturbance. But when stillness is present, there is more listening and less immediate reaction. This creates space for genuine understanding. People feel more comfortable, conversations become more honest, and conflicts lose their intensity. Over time, this improves not only personal relationships but also professional and social interactions, opening doors that were previously closed by misunderstanding. Even challenges which once felt overwhelming begin to appear more manageable. This is not because difficulties disappear, but because resistance to them decreases. When there is less internal struggle, energy becomes available for solutions rather than worry. The mind becomes more flexible, able to adapt instead of breaking under pressure. In this flexibility, new possibilities emerge. What once looked like a dead end may reveal an alternative path when seen without fear. Gradually, life begins to feel less like a battle and more like a movement that can be understood. Stillness does not guarantee specific outcomes, but it improves the quality of attention through which life is experienced. And through improved attention, choices become clearer, timing becomes more natural, and responses become more appropriate. In this way, what is often described as luck begins to appear not as something external that randomly visits, but as the natural result of a mind that is steady enough to see life as it truly is, and calm enough to move with it instead of against it. Presence opens the door to blessings. Many fortunate moments appear in the present, and only those who are fully aware can notice them. When the mind grows quiet enough to observe life without constant interference, a very subtle transformation begins to take place. It is not something that can be measured easily or explained in simple terms because it does not belong to the outer world alone. It happens inwardly in the space where thoughts usually rise and fall without control. In that space, something begins to settle. The urgency that once pushed every decision starts to soften, and with that softening comes a clearer way of seeing. Most people live with a mind that is continuously occupied. It is either replaying the past or preparing for the future. Even in moments of rest, it rarely remains still. This constant movement creates a sense of pressure, as if life must always be managed, controlled, or corrected. Because of this, attention becomes fragmented. Instead of experiencing life directly, it is filtered through layers of interpretation, memory, and expectation. In such a state, even simple situations can feel complicated, because the mind adds unnecessary meaning to them. Stillness changes this pattern by allowing awareness to rest in the present moment without immediately reacting to it. This does not mean the absence of thought, but rather the absence of compulsion to follow every thought. When thoughts arise and are not immediately obeyed, they begin to lose their grip. The mind becomes less like a storm and more like a sky in which clouds pass without leaving disturbance behind. In this condition, perception becomes more direct and less distorted. With clearer perception comes better understanding of cause and effect. Many outcomes in life are influenced not only by external circumstances but also by subtle internal responses. A reactive mind often creates unnecessary obstacles by responding too quickly or too emotionally. It may misunderstand situations, assume intentions that are not there, or act under the influence of fear. These reactions can close doors that were never meant to be closed. On the other hand, a still mind allows situations to unfold before responding. This patience reveals more accurate information, and decisions become more aligned with reality. There is also a shift in how time is experienced. A restless mind is always either ahead of itself or behind itself. It rarely rests where life is actually happening. This creates a sense of urgency and dissatisfaction, as if something is always missing or incomplete. But in stillness, time feels less fragmented. The present moment becomes more stable, and within it, actions feel more natural. Instead of forcing outcomes, there is a sense of responding to what is already unfolding. This often leads to outcomes that feel smoother and more favorable, not because they were controlled, but because they were not resisted unnecessarily. As this inner stability deepens, attention becomes more sensitive. Small details that were previously ignored begin to stand out. The tone in a conversation, a slight change in circumstance, or an unexpected opportunity becomes easier to notice. Life does not become louder, but awareness becomes sharper. This heightened sensitivity allows better navigation through situations that once felt confusing. From an external point of view, it may appear as if certain individuals consistently find favorable outcomes. Internally, however, it is simply the result of clearer attention and reduced mental interference. Even in challenging situations, stillness provides a different kind of strength. Instead of being overwhelmed by difficulty, the mind remains steady enough to explore possibilities. This does not eliminate pain or uncertainty, but it prevents them from becoming overwhelming. In that steadiness, solutions that were previously hidden by fear can come into view. What once felt like a blockage can begin to look like a temporary condition rather than a permanent limit. Gradually, life feels less like something to be controlled and more like something to be understood. This shift reduces unnecessary struggle. Actions become more precise, reactions become less impulsive, and understanding becomes deeper. What people often refer to as luck begins to appear not as something random, but as the natural outcome of clear seeing and appropriate response. It is the result of being present enough to notice what is actually happening and calm enough to respond without distortion. Peace transforms life's challenges. A still mind does not remove suffering, but it helps a person face difficulties with strength, grace, and deeper understanding. When stillness becomes a natural state of the mind, life begins to reveal a different texture, one that is often overlooked when attention is constantly scattered. The world does not change its form, yet the experience of it changes in a very noticeable way. Events still come and go, challenges still arise, and opportunities still appear unexpectedly. But the inner response to all of these becomes less reactive and more aware. In that awareness, something subtle begins to emerge that many people later describe as good fortune or unexpected luck, though its roots lie much deeper than chance. A restless mind lives in constant motion. It moves from one concern to another, rarely pausing long enough to fully understand what is happening in the present moment. Because of this, life is often experienced in fragments rather than as a whole. Decisions are made quickly, sometimes under pressure, sometimes under fear, and sometimes under desire. In such conditions, even the right opportunities can be missed simply because the mind is too disturbed to recognize them clearly. It is like trying to see reflections in water that is constantly being shaken. Nothing appears clearly, no matter how close it is. Stillness brings a different quality of attention. It allows the mind to pause without becoming inactive. Thoughts may still arise, but they no longer dictate immediate reaction. There is space between awareness and response. In that space, understanding develops. Instead of reacting to surface impressions, the mind begins to see deeper patterns. It becomes less influenced by temporary emotions and more connected to direct observation. This shift alone changes the way decisions are made, making them more grounded and less distorted. With a calmer inner state, perception becomes more refined. Life is no longer filtered heavily through fear or expectation. Situations are seen more as they are, rather than as the mind imagines them to be. This clarity reduces unnecessary confusion. Many difficulties that once seemed overwhelming begin to appear manageable when seen without emotional exaggeration. At the same time, subtle opportunities that were previously invisible become easier to recognize. These opportunities are not always dramatic, often they are quiet, small, and easy to overlook. But a still mind is sensitive enough to notice them. Time also begins to feel different in this state. Instead of being a constant pressure, it becomes more fluid. A restless mind often feels rushed, as if everything must be done immediately or risk being lost. This creates tension and leads to hurried actions. But in stillness, urgency loses its dominance. There is a natural sense of timing that begins to emerge. Actions happen when they are needed, not when anxiety demands them. This alignment with timing often leads to smoother outcomes, which from the outside may appear as fortunate coincidences. Relationships also reflect this inner transformation. When the mind is less reactive, communication becomes more stable. There is more listening and less interruption, more understanding and less assumption. Misunderstandings reduce because responses are not driven by immediate emotional impulses. This creates trust and ease in interactions. Many opportunities in life come through people, and a calm presence naturally strengthens those connections without effort or manipulation. Even in moments of difficulty, stillness provides a form of inner stability. Challenges are no longer magnified by fear or mental resistance. Instead, they are observed as situations that require attention and response. This shift reduces emotional overwhelm and allows problem-solving to become clearer. Solutions that were previously hidden by anxiety begin to emerge once the mind is not clouded. Over time, life starts to feel less chaotic, not because circumstances have completely changed, but because perception has become clearer. There is less internal noise interfering with external reality. Actions become more precise, reactions become less impulsive, and awareness becomes more continuous. In this condition, what is often called luck begins to appear more frequently, but it is not random at all. It is the natural result of a mind that is steady enough to see clearly, patient enough to wait for the right moment, and aware enough to respond without distortion.